when I lived in Japan, they would carry to keep you awake and also to sort of help you with physical discomforts, but mostly to scare you into alertness. They carry what's called a keisaku in the Rinzai Zen tradition. It's called a kyosaku in the Soto Zen. It's the same Chinese characters that mean wake up stick, literally. Waking stick or wake up stick. But it also, the same character that means wake up, it also means startle, actually. And I used to carry the keisaku and whack people, and people used to carry the keisaku and whack me. And when I came back to the United States, I initially moved into a Vietnamese-style Buddhist temple in Los Angeles, the International Buddhist Meditation Center on New Hampshire in Koreatown. It's still there. And because I had been in Japan and had the Zen background, I initially sort of taught in the Zen mode. So I had a keisaku, and I used to use it at retreats. And this is way, way, way back in the 70s. Security was not, you know, the crazy fear that it is now at airports and so forth. So I would actually carry the keisaku onto the plane. Sometimes they'd ask, you know, at the checkpoint, sort of like, what's that, right? And I said, well, it's used for giving a Japanese massage, which is true. When it's done right, and I've had the privilege of having it done right by real masters. I once got sakued by a Roshi, not Sasaki Roshi, a different Roshi, who was also a kendo master. Imagine what it would be like to be a basketball being dribbled by Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, okay? That's what my body felt like. It was like he could dribble me at the end of the keisaku. He'd like pick me up and put me down. I mean, obviously physics laws don't allow for that, but it sort of seemed like, I mean, he had that much power at the end of that thing. And when it's done right, it hits on what I think is gallbladder 21, which is both a stimulating point and a mellowing out point at the same time. And boy, that is what it does to you, okay? It causes this shower of endorphins. It doesn't, I mean, it hurts a little bit, but it doesn't really like hurt the way you might think it hurts. All your muscles relax, all the pain goes down, right down into your toes if it's done right. And you are awake. You are definitely awake. So I used to carry it, you know, at IBMC, at the International Buddhist Meditation Center. But what I noticed is that as I began to move more into the Vipassana mode, I noticed that, first of all, initially people are like really scared. And then they develop an addiction to it and want it. See, they could request it the way I was doing it. So it's like, oh, I'm sort of fostering fear and then addiction here. And maybe, you know, it's like, well, so I just sort of got out of the habit. Years later, I discovered Sasaki Roshi, and I translated for him for 5 years, but didn't really study with him. But then I guess, you know, the center of gravity just gradually had a strong enough influence that I just couldn't resist. So I started to go to sessions at Mount Baldy. So it's like, by that time I'd meditated for quite a while. It's my first session at Mount Baldy, and they're sitting, and they bring out the keisaku, right? They walk in a very menacing, threatening way intentionally, with a kind of mincing pace that sort of like gives you the impression at any instant they're going to suddenly turn around and beat the living crap out of you, okay? Now, mind you, it feels good, okay? And I've had it done to me, and I'd done it to people for years and years and years previously, okay? So I'm sitting there, and it's like this guy starts to walk by, and this terror arises within me. This primordial, intense terror. Actually, I couldn't even control my body. I actually started to move, so I got hit, okay? Which felt good, but so you might think, and that happened every time for the whole session, and for the next session, and for the next session, okay? It was like that's what the whole thing was about, was like I'm like sweating bullets and shitting bricks every time these guys are carrying the stick, which is frequently during the day. So now you might think that the self-talk would be like, what is wrong with me, okay? That I'm having this huge overblown reaction. But that's not the self-talk that arose, not in the slightest. What arose was wisdom function that understood what was happening, why it was happening, and what to do about it. So what was the difference? 15 years ago when I was in Japan, and they'd carry it with the same threatening, whatever, okay? And I didn't even notice it. I was so lost in my thoughts and, in my memory plan of fantasy, whatever, I didn't even notice what was going on. Years and years and years of meditation, be careful what you ask for. How many people come to me and say, oh, if only I could have a peaceful mind. Well, you can have a peaceful mind, but there's a price to pay for a peaceful mind. What's left if the image and talk turns off? What's left of you? What's left of you is a frightened little infant's body is what's left of you. And so when Darth Vader is coming out of the world of threatening archetypes, okay, that's all that was there. Now, could I have turned that all off by rationalization? Easy, just start thinking. It's like, okay, that's so-and-so, and I've known him for years, and he's a friend of mine, and if he hits me, it's going to feel good. I could rationalize away the fear, but that's not the idea. The idea is to scour down into the infantile animal levels of your being, no matter how embarrassing that might be, no matter how inconvenient that might be. You don't rationalize it away, you train the body at that primitive level, and it doesn't, it's like, okay, that's what's happening, and I know exactly what to do. Eventually it reached the point where as soon as they started to carry the Keisaku, this wave of power, fear would spread to me, turn into flow, cause me to merge with the person carrying the Keisaku and the entire room, and it was like just catharsis city, just bliss city. So you want oneness? Well, one way to get it is work through separateness at the primitive level of the body.